All right. Welcome to the Surviving Second Gen podcast. Welcome to another episode. We have a very, very special guest today, and I'm really, really excited for her to be here. Let me give you a quick intro about who we're talking about here. So, this is Miss Jenn Jackson, who's here. Jenn is a social media influencer and content creator in the beauty and self care space. She is passionate about creating content that cultivates confidence in women and motivates them to take care of themselves physically, mentally, and emotionally. It may start with beauty tips, but her overall goal is to empower women to embrace their authenticity, achieve the unexpected, and influence those around them positively. Welcome, Jenn Jackson.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you're here. For those that don't know, I have been watching Jenn for some time now. I don't know how many years, but started off with the mental health videos. I mean, not mental health, hair videos. It is
Hair
mental health
videos.
now, but yeah, started off with hair videos, just natural hair stuff, which, at the time it was a big thing to like be talking
Mhm.
about natural hair, how to style it. And for me, I was still trying to figure out my natural hair journey. So to see somebody else who looks like me doing it, I was like, yeah, I'm tuned in. And then I heard her talking and I was like, I think she's Haitian. Coming to find out, she is.
She is Haitian.
She is Haitian. And we have the same name. So I was like, this is something special here. Like I
Yes.
like this girl.
All the stars aligned.
Yeah, for me, all the stars align. So that's how I got to personally like know your content and who you are. But it sounds like more lately that you've been veering into just overall lifestyle content. So
Yeah.
beyond just hair, you're talking about your day to day, you're talking about, you know, content creation things, and you're also
Right.
talking about mental health.
Absolutely.
So tell me what made you pivot and actually start talking about mental health in your content?
I think for me, it's a natural evolution to my content. I've always been very passionate about mental health for a really long time. I mean, I didn't know about it until I want to say I was in my 20s. That's when it really
Mm-hmm.
started to hit me like, okay, mental health is actually important. And at
Yeah.
the time, my father actually passed away in the
Mm.
earthquake in Haiti in 2010.
Oh wow.
So that's what kickstarted this whole thing for me. That's what started my entire content creation career. At the time, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't think it was a career. It was just an outlet for me. I didn't know how to deal with the pain. I didn't know how to deal with the grief.
Mm-hmm.
No one teaches you any of that,
Right. Right.
and I didn't have any other tools available to really sit with yourself and kind of figure out, okay, I am hurting. This is what I can do about it. So because I didn't
Yeah.
know what to do, I just felt like I was exploding inside.
Mm-hmm.
I always say that content creation found me.
Oh.
So then that's how it all started back then. So mental health was always kind of front and center because when it started, I was in university, and the university wanted all of us Haitian students to have a therapist. So they assigned us with someone. And that's when
Oh.
the
Okay.
seeds was planted. But of course, at the time, I was
Mm-hmm.
very closed off. Me talking to a
Yeah.
therapist, what? Like I'm not
Right.
crazy. I'm just
Exactly. Yeah. That's
I'm
the.
just that's the go-to, right?
Yeah.
I'm not crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just in my father passed away. I'm not
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Why would I need a therapist?
What do I need a
What?
therapist? So that's basically how when the seed was planted into just like me being exposed to therapy, being exposed to mental health. Of course, at the time I was very closed off to it. But fast
Mm-hmm.
forward to now, I've seen multiple therapists, and And that's why I say it's a natural progression to my content, because the seed was planted and it's been developing for years. And now I can't stop talking about it. I'm just like, I see the result in my
Mhm.
life. I see the result in other people that take it seriously. And I really just want to spread the awareness, especially in our community, the Haitian community, the Black community, that, hey, you don't need to be crazy. Matter of fact, you
Mhm.
need therapy so that you're not crazy.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Because I can't imagine what that loss was like,
Mm,
at that time. And then
yeah.
I find it really progressive to have had during that time individuals in your university who said, hey, we need to get therapists to the Haitian students.
Yeah.
That's really awesome that you were able to get that help in the moment.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I definitely give the University of Ottawa a huge shout out for, even having resources available for us at the time. Because then when it happened, it was such a huge shock, obviously,
Hmm.
to the world. And
Yeah.
I think people that were affected, we definitely felt it on a different level. And part of me almost hated that it was so public, like everybody knew about it. So everyone
Mm.
felt like giving advice and this is what you should do. And I hated that part of it as well, but
Yeah.
they provided a lot of services for the students, and yeah, I definitely appreciated that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that that mental health component that was part of your life years back, and that helped you process the grief of losing your father, but also is that what got you into content creation?
Well, first of all, I should clarify, having been assigned to a therapist back then did not help me process the grief. I didn't even
Oh,
process
okay.
it. I didn't
Oh, clarify.
no,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
girl.
Okay.
I was very closed off. It was my first experience
Mm.
to therapy. So I was sitting across this woman, and the entire time I'm thinking, what is this white woman gonna do for me? You're asking me about all these, aspect of
Mm-hmm,
my
mm-hmm.
life. So I'm just sitting there giving her generic answers, very closed off to the whole thing. So no, I didn't process any of the grief. And I can argue I didn't process it till like 2 years ago. Like a whole decade
Oh,
later is when
wow.
when I know when I actually was very intentional with therapy, and I got a therapist myself.
Mm-hmm.
And of course you start digging into your past, you start digging into your childhood, what happens then, different
Right.
aspect of your life, different eras of your life. And of course I knew talking about my father was a huge pain for me. And like, it's funny how the entire family handled it, which is they didn't talk about it. Just how it
Mm-hmm.
was.
Yeah, yeah.
Years will go by, and maybe around the anniversary of his death, maybe I'll say something to my brothers, but it was just like, we don't talk about it. So
Mm.
I want to say 10 years later is when actually started dealing with the grief. But content creation found me then, because I didn't know how to express myself, I didn't know how to express the pain, I didn't know how
Mm.
to express anything when it came to me, to be honest. Like, I was, you grow up, you don't say anything to adults,
Mm-hmm,
you kind
mm-hmm.
of keep your head down. And I
Right.
don't think we realize how that impacts us in our adult years, because we grew up and we just don't know how to express ourselves at all. So that's how
Right.
it was for me. And because I felt like I was suffocating in my own skin,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just stressed out. Like, my hair was falling out,
Oh, yeah.
everything was
Yeah.
wrong at that time. And then that's how okay, my hair's falling out, I'm like 20, like I shouldn't be having, my hair shouldn't be falling out. So
Right,
that was my
right.
thing, and I was like, okay, well, what can I do about this? So that's when I started googling, hair falling out in clumps, what can I do about it? And that's how I discovered like the hair forms back then. That's how I discovered YouTube, and like a few
Mm-hmm.
women were talking about their hair on YouTube, but there wasn't a lot of Black women. There wasn't a lot of people with hair like mine, like kinky,
Mm-hmm.
4C hair. So then I was like, what, maybe I can do this, because I'm looking for something that I couldn't find. And I
Right.
found
Yep.
some similar women, but I was like, maybe there's other people that are looking for the same thing. So
Mm-hmm.
that's when I picked up my webcam back then and
Yeah.
started creating these videos. And it was mainly for the purpose of taking me away from real life, because I didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
deal with what was happening. I didn't want to deal with the pain. I didn't want to deal with my sadness. So I was just like, let
Yeah.
me do something new, something different, something challenging. And
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
how content creation started.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. So you had something major happen in your life, but based on how you grew up, how a lot of us grow up as immigrant children, we don't really have the space to express those emotions.
Yeah.
So you took to content creation
Yeah.
to, find an outlet. And it's interesting that you said it took you years to really step into the space of grieving your
Yeah.
father.
Yeah.
Um, so for you, I know you've talked about therapy and how helpful it's been for you. How was it different this time around in the past, like
Mm.
2 years or so, than it was the first time?
So the first time I was closed off. Again,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what therapy could do. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know why I was there. Like really understand. Okay, yeah, something dramatic happened
Yeah.
to me, and they're like, okay, you need to talk to someone. But that's very much against how I was raised. You don't talk to people about your
Yeah.
business. so
Yeah.
so I was
Right.
very closed off. I wasn't open. I wasn't sharing. I wasn't honest. I could say with her, how are you doing? I'm fine. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
fine. My week was
Right.
terrible. I've been
Uh-huh.
crying all week, but in front of this
Mm-hmm.
woman, I'm just like, I can't show her my
Can't say that.
weaknesses.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
like, I'm fine. So I wasn't honest. I wasn't open at all. And that was my very first experience with therapy. And I
Mm.
had two other therapists after that, and each time it was because something happened, something
Okay.
drastic happened. Maybe it was something within family that I didn't know how to deal with, but I was like, maybe I should see somebody. The seed was planted, like I said, so I was like, maybe I should talk
Mm-hmm.
to someone. So I saw two other therapists following that first lady, and it was still like I gained something from it because I was a little bit more open, a little bit more receptive, a little bit more understanding that okay, this is actually for me and it's supposed to help me deal with whatever's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked away with like little pieces of okay, I've learned boundaries from this therapist, for example, but I always felt
Yeah.
something was missing because um on a cultural perspective, obviously we're
Mm.
Haitian, and
Mm-hmm.
every each therapist that I had, I would have to explain how the Haitian culture is. So
Yeah.
for example, if I was dealing with some family trauma and I was trying to explain to, well, this is how we act with family. Like, oh, she's like,
Yeah.
well, that's
Mm-hmm.
toxic. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's
That's
normalized.
what
Like,
we know. Yeah.
that's what we
That's
do.
yeah.
And she's like,
Yeah.
well, why were you there so late at their house? And it's like, why wouldn't I be? Like, what do you mean? It's normal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I felt like I would spend time explaining the culture and then get to my
Yeah.
problem. So I felt like, okay, something's missing. But this time around, I sat down. I was like, okay, Jen, you're getting old. You are, I always say that. I'm in my 30s. I'm not that old.
Yeah,
Um,
we're not that old. We're older, but we're not
Seasoned.
old. Yeah, wise.
Exactly. You're getting wiser.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you want out of therapy? So I wrote down my goals and I was like, okay, this is what I want to work on. And at the time too, I felt like, okay. And I think for me, when I'm overwhelmed, and obviously I'm learning this now,
Mm-hmm.
ironically as an adult, I feel like I'm suffocating. Like I just don't know
Yeah.
what to do about it. I don't know how to express myself. And it's kind of stays in and bottles in. And then eventually it's like, boop, boop, I'm off
Mm-hmm.
the handle. So now that I'm
Yeah.
aware about my pattern, I'm like, okay, I want to deal with this. I basically wrote down, I didn't know the words for a lot of these things, but I wrote down what I wanted to work on and I wrote down who
Yeah.
I wanted to work with. And I think that's very important when you think
Okay.
about your therapist. The relationship you're going to
Mm-hmm.
have with your therapist is a very intimate one, it's a close one, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
be comfortable with that person. So I was like, I wanted someone that's at the very least from the Caribbean.
Okay.
Didn't
Yeah.
have to be a Haitian therapist, but I wanted
Mm-hmm.
someone that understood cultural differences, especially within the Black community. So that
Mm-hmm.
was my long list,
Yeah.
and then so I started looking. I guess you could say backwards. Okay, let me see if I can find someone that is from the Caribbean, and then what do they specialize in, and can I
Mm-hmm.
match my goals with what they specialize in? So once I matched with someone, I found someone, and
Mm-hmm.
it was during the pandemic too, and I sprinkled an extra bonus point if I can just meet with them virtually and I didn't have to
Yeah.
leave the
Yeah.
house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So all the boxes checked and I started working with her. And at that point, because I was intentional with it, because I had my goals front and center and I was reevaluating my goals every couple of sessions, like, hey, did we talk about this? Can we dig here? Can we do this? Then now
Mm-hmm.
this partnership is so successful because again, I was very focused as to where I wanted to go. And I knew there's a lot that I don't know when it
Yeah.
comes to the world of therapy, and that's something obviously I'm very honest with her about. I'm like, what should I be working on? Like, what else? Especially now
Mm-hmm.
that we've been working with each other for 3 years.
Okay.
I felt like at some point I was gonna get to an area where it's like, I don't know what else to talk about. But as it turns
Mhm.
out, we're like a very big onion. The second you peel a
Uh-huh.
layer, oh, there's another
Something
layer.
underneath.
I
Yep.
didn't know there was this here too. Who left this garbage here? How long this thing has been here? So
Exactly.
so you start working, you're like, wow, I could do this
Yeah.
forever. And it's
Mhm.
it's also a good reminder for me to kind of check in with the self.
Yeah.
Because I typically work with her on average on a monthly basis. And sometimes,
Okay.
if we're not intentional with things, it slips and slides. You don't realize it. But every month it gives me a little
Mhm.
reminder, like, okay, well, I'm gonna meet with her. Let me get myself together. Let me think about what we want to talk about. Or
Yeah.
maybe we'll have a plan or something that we're working on. It's like, well, let me get it, because she's gonna ask me if I did this and that. Let me
Mhm.
get back on track. So it
Yeah.
keeps me going. It keeps me intentional with just how I'm living my life, and it
Uh-huh.
keeps me aware of how I'm showing up. And I think this is so important to live a very healthy, peaceful life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I love how you broke down how you were intentional about finding a right therapist for you.
Yeah.
Because I think that for a lot of people, that's the difficulty.
Hmm.
Um, you know, just feeling like they can relate to somebody who knows what it is that they're going through.
Hmm.
And I think that, the cultural part is huge.
It's huge.
Like, in the Haitian community, the Caribbean community, our culture is like within our blood.
We're special.
Like, we are special. And if you don't understand that nuance, then there is a component of therapy that is like blocked off.
Yeah.
If that
I
person
mean, I
can't
think
really
it'll
go
still
there.
be absolutely, and I think it'll still be very helpful, depending
Sure.
on whatever you need to talk about. But I think just having that underlying understanding makes it
Hmm.
easier to talk about certain things. And I think it's also
Right.
very important, like you mentioned, to be paired with the right therapist. And I use this very loosely because I think a lot of therapists can be the right therapist. But
Hmm.
I think what a lot of us do when it's like a process, okay, maybe I feel like I want a therapist, which is already a big step for us to think that way, to
Yeah.
even
Absolutely.
make that first leap, like, okay, I'm going to talk to one person. But then what we
Hmm.
do, I think a lot of the time is we'll have the first session. It's like, oh, this person, I tried it, it didn't work for me. And people say that all the
Yeah.
time to me. Oh, I've tried it, it didn't work for me. And I'm like, that's fair. That definitely can be your experience. But we don't try food once and be like, or you don't go to a restaurant, but like, what, I tried food, it didn't work
Hmm.
for me. No, you're just gonna go to another restaurant because you didn't like
Right,
this
right.
restaurant. So I
Exactly.
think I always use
Yeah.
that example to let people know, like, it's not a I tried it once thing. It's a process. It's a
Mhm.
lifelong journey. It's turning
Mhm.
your life into like in a different direction, going in a different way, and you have to be consistent and intentional with it. It's not this thing that you dip your toe into it and like see what happens behind the door and be like, no, no, no,
Mm.
I tried it, didn't work for me. No, and it's
Exactly.
supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to be, especially when you're going back
Yeah.
into childhood or traumas
Mhm.
or all the things that we don't realize is actually controlling how we are acting today. Like a lot
Exactly.
of the way that we act today is, based from our childhood experiences that shaped who we are, first of all,
Mhm.
or any type of traumatic experience that happened all along your life. I don't think we
Mhm.
realize going back. Oh, it's not easy. So if you tried once, you're like, oh, it's
Yeah.
difficult. I felt some kind of way. Well, that's how it's supposed to feel. You are going to
Exactly.
feel
Yeah. It's
terrible,
gonna be uncomfortable. Mhm.
uncomfortable, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, you made some great points because I think that's what holds a lot of people back, especially if you already have that mentality that we've been given that you don't talk about things and
yeah.
you only go to therapists if you're crazy.
Hmm.
If you go to one session and it doesn't feel right, it almost confirms what you have already been told,
Yeah,
that you shouldn't be doing this. But
yeah,
like you said, it is uncomfortable. It's not something that, and I tell my clients this too, there's no like end goal, like after X amount of sessions you'll be healed. Like,
yeah.
no.
No,
I wish I could do that, but no, I'm not a healer.
no.
I'm helping you
You
on a
helping?
journey to
No,
heal. Yeah, and it's
absolutely.
it's a, it's a journey.
Yeah. And I think you don't even realize the progress sometimes until you get thrown in a situation where you would have
Mhm.
acted a certain way. And
Yeah.
then you have this moment where you pause. maybe you still act,
Mm-hmm.
the toxic way, but yeah, because it's not something you don't flip a switch and suddenly you change, you're a brand new person.
Yeah.
You'll be thrown in that situation where you would have snapped instantly, for example, and then you pause and you're like, wow, let me think about this. Do I
Yeah.
act this way, or do I let me
Yeah. Being
remove
able to slow
myself?
down.
Yeah, let me
Mm-hmm.
slow down, remove myself from the situation, and really take a look, like a bird's eye view at the situation, and then choose how you act. And that's when you're like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, I've made some progress. I can't wait to tell my therapist.
Yes, yes. I love that because, yeah, that is the true progress. It's not from like, oh, I used to fight people to I just crossed my arms. It's
Yeah,
like being able to slow down and say, oh, like I can actually make a choice in this process and it doesn't have to be like this impulse decision. Like
absolutely.
that's how you work in therapy. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. Like you're telling the people what therapy is about because people
Listen.
don't understand.
No, they really, and I think, well, perhaps, I like to give people grace, because if you're already
Hmm.
mentally blocked about
Oh
whatever
yeah.
the thing is, it's not allowing
Hmm.
you to give it your all. That's one. And
Yeah.
two, I think, social media has hyped up therapy to a certain way as well, where it's like, oh, I'm in therapy
Hmm.
now, I've changed. The person started last
Uh-huh.
week. It's like,
Yeah.
have you? Let me see how you act in certain situation first. And I think
Right.
people have that misconception that, like you said, three
Hmm.
sessions, 5 sessions is going to heal me or fix me or whatever,
Hmm.
and not understand that human behavior is ingrained in us. So it's like you are
Yeah.
unlearning so many different things and so many different teachings from your past and childhood. That's, those habits, they've been there, they're strong, and for you to unlearn that and start placing the stones to this new house that you're building, oh my god, it's a
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. So yeah, I mean, going back to like you said, not given the tools as a child on how to manage your own emotions and being able to talk about things.
Mhm.
Now that you've gone through therapy, and now that you're a recent mom, what for you do you feel like you're going to be able to teach your child on how to deal with their feelings?
I mean, there's so many things. First of all, just the fact that feelings are normal. Let's start
Hmm.
with that.
Yeah.
Um, just well, wow, there's so many. Um, Definitely want to teach her the power of self-awareness, being able to
Hmm.
understand how you are acting and how that's affecting the situations that you may be complaining about, what
Yeah.
you're saying and how that's affecting the people in your life. And I think, for example, with therapy, a lot of people are like, well, I'm not going to be a doormat. And it's like, it's not about being a doormat. Like, I can be very assertive,
No.
I can express myself in a lot of situations, especially uncomfortable ones, without
Hmm.
yelling at someone, without
Hmm.
cussing them out. Like, I'm gonna
Right.
kill you with kindness, if anything, but I'm not gonna let you walk
Hmm.
all over me. Like, that's also
Yeah.
not a good thing. So, self
Right.
awareness, boundaries, being able to understand when she is feeling. Well, my baby's a daughter.
Hmm.
Feeling emotional, what's triggering her. I really want to pour
Mm.
everything that I am learning in therapy into her, because that's not something that I grew
Yeah.
up learning. And when I talk about, especially the parenting and things that we grew up not knowing, people are always like, your parents did their best. And of course, my parents did their
Yeah.
very best. And I thank them, I
Hmm.
give them their flowers. There's a lot of things that they just weren't aware and
Hmm.
didn't know that it was important to slow down and give us, say, an extra hug, for example, because they were just so,
Yeah.
busy focusing on our survival. It was a
Yeah.
different time. I grew up in Haiti. It was a different time. I can tell you that much. What we focus on
Hmm.
here, and
Hmm.
because we're comfortable, is not the same
Yeah.
thing that, people in Haiti, especially, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago, focused on. So
Right.
definitely give them their flowers, and there's a lot of things that they weren't aware, but those tools are available now,
Right.
and this is where I'm like, I'm gonna learn everything that I can learn, so that I can pass that off to my baby, so that she can eventually take that,
Hmm.
improve on
Hmm.
it, and keep it going. That's my biggest, I
Yeah.
would say, um what would I say? not joy. Well, I guess the biggest joy of parenting is seeing what
Yeah.
my baby will do with my teachings. Take it, improve on it,
Mm-hmm.
make it better for the bloodline. Wow. Just like I've taken what my
Yeah.
parents have done, I added, the emotional aspect to it and pass it on
Mm-hmm.
off.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I can't imagine like the little moments that you're like seeing things click for her, or
Yeah.
being able to teach her something and see it coming to fruition probably years from now, like how
Yeah.
that's gonna bring so much joy.
Yeah. And I also think being a parent now, it's making me even more aware of how it's easy to pass on, say, the way our parents acted with us. And again, we're
Yeah.
giving them their flowers. We don't need to
Mm-hmm,
have a
mm-hmm.
million disclaimers. But something that happened the other day, for example, I was with my baby, and she's such a joyful baby. She's happy. She just
Oh,
radiate joy, and I
oh,
love that. I'm
I
like, my God,
love that.
did we all start out that way? But in any
Hmm.
case, I was taking a picture of her, and it was like a weird angle, and I
Mm-hmm.
said something. I was like, "Oh my God, this angle's making you look chunky or something." And she's
Mm-hmm.
not a chunky baby. She's, if anything, on the smaller size, I guess, considering the charts and all. And then it
Mm-hmm.
hit me. I was like, "Why did I say that?" Like, I have to be
Mm.
mindful with what I say, because when my mom points
Yeah.
something out, say to my, like, I gave birth 10 months ago, and she'll be the one that's like, "Oh, look at your stomach," and it's like, "Well,
Mm-hmm,
yes,
mm-hmm.
I gave birth 10 months ago, mother. Like,
Right.
why
What do you
why do you say
expect?
that?" Exactly. And
Yeah,
she'll always say, "Oh,
yeah.
I don't mean nothing by it," but still, I'm like,
Oh,
"Well, you still
yeah.
have to be aware of what you say, mom, and how that affects
Yeah.
other people." And here I
Mm-hmm.
am doing it with her. And of course, I don't
Uh-huh,
mean
uh-huh.
anything bad by it, but I'm like, "Okay, Jen, you really have to be even more
Yeah.
aware of what you say and things that, we were told when we were growing up. It's like, it's normal, it's
Mm-hmm.
fine." But we don't realize the consequences of that till later on. So it's the same thing with her. I'm learning that I have to be even more mindful of how I act and what I say, because she's like studying every
Mm-hmm.
single move. Like,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, babies are sponges. They pick
Mm,
up on everything. And you gave a good example of something I've talked about in a recent episode of just the criticalness
mm.
that Haitian parents and kind of Caribbean parents can have, but there's something about the way Haitian moms will
Whew,
just pick
babe.
at the littlest thing, and you're just like, well, why did you have to say that?
Yeah,
Like, what was the reason for that?
you're minding your business. You're not even
Yeah,
looking at. You did your hair, your makeup. You're feeling yourself. I'm
you
looking
feel
good.
great,
Why did you do
and
that with your
then
hair? Why the? Thank you, mother. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. That I really needed that in this very moment. It's not like I asked you for this, right? But yeah, I like you said, like now it's easily it can be easy for you to do the same thing to your daughter, not because you want to, but because it's been ingrained in what you know and what parents model to us. Unfortunately, like we can't control it for the most part, becomes how we show up unless we actually take the time to, like you said, in therapy, unlearn a lot of what we realize isn't good,
Mm-hmm.
is toxic, or can create insecurities. Like
Yeah.
it takes
Yeah.
work to undo things that we think are I think for some children of immigrants it's like normal things, but really it can be intergenerational trauma, you
Yeah.
know.
Absolutely. And it's actually very difficult to go against the how you were raised. I think
Mm-hmm.
I think there's, I don't know, on a psychological level or something, we're
Mm-hmm.
hardwired to kind of continue to do things that's normalized, things
Yeah,
that we've always done. Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
and then when you get in a situation where, like, I'm trying to do something differently, like, say with my
Mm-hmm.
baby, I'm trying to parent differently,
Yeah.
and so now I have to, like, learn the parenting skills that
Mm-hmm.
I want to apply and then apply it in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm tired sometimes.
The work. Yeah. I mean, like I've talked about being a cycle breaker, and doing it, and I don't have any children, but just being the cycle breaker on my own, right?
Ugh.
Without having children, but having to go against the grain, right? Go against what my parents think I should do, the way I should live or dress or look or whatever is so hard. As a grown adult in my 30s, I'm still
Yeah.
like, what is my mom gonna say? What is my
Yeah.
dad gonna say about this or that? Like, and I can't imagine how there's an extra level of difficulty when you're trying to do it with the child.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad I started this work years ago and
Mm-hmm.
started this personal development path, this awareness path, before I became a mom. Because now I'm
Mm-hmm.
at the very least, I'm aware.
Yeah.
Like, my comment the other day, at the very least, I'm like, oh, Jen, you shouldn't have said that. It's
Mm-hmm.
sitting with me. Like, days
Yeah.
later, I'm still thinking about it. It's like, why did you do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
At the very
Mm-hmm.
least, I'm aware, and I'm gonna take that awareness with me. I mean, if she was older, I feel like maybe I should still apologize. It's gonna get stored somewhere in the back of her brain. But
Yeah.
that's another thing, right? Like saying, for example, the act of apologizing to your child. Oh,
Mm.
I can tell you, it's not something that our parents are
No,
very
we.
fluent in.
No.
So it's like, well, you know what? I didn't have to say that, so I'm gonna show up differently and do the. And Mama as well doing comfortable work now when she's like 10 months and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't even understand. So and I can get the
Yeah.
repetitions in
Yeah.
because I'm gonna need
Right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, none of us are perfect. With therapy, you learn a lot, you grow a lot, but you'll still make mistakes. But like you
Oh
said,
yeah,
that self awareness is what's important. Being able to see that, hey, I could have done something differently and giving yourself the opportunity to try it differently the next time.
absolutely. And therapy, I'm glad you brought that up. Therapy is not perfection, like not at
Mm-hmm.
all.
Yeah. 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 So I'm curious, talking about moms, Haitian moms, what did your mom think when you said, I'm going to be doing some content? Or I don't know if you told her or how she found out, but being, being how they always have something to say,
Yeah,
what was
about
her
that.
reaction?
So I didn't tell her for years. I think I was like maybe 4 year into creating content
Wow.
when I think somehow my mom found out, and I think one of her friends sent her like the video
Mm,
or something. And she was like, "Isn't that
okay.
Jen? Jennifer?" So then I was like, "Yeah, yes, mom. I create content, put videos online." Of course, she wasn't about it. She thought it was a terrible
Mm-hmm.
idea. Why am I putting my
Mm-hmm.
life out there? And
Right.
Haitians can be pretty superstitious, I guess, where it's like you
Mm-hmm.
welcoming eyes into your space and like all the things. And I'm just
Yeah,
like,
all that stuff.
la
Yeah.
la la la. It's like it's already been 4 years. The eyes have been in my space. I'm still here, so
Right.
it's fine. It's fine.
Mhm. Right. We're gonna
So
be
we just
okay.
it was like this sore conversation for a while where I'm like, we're not gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna mention it. And I've been already doing it for 4 years, so it's not like,
Hmm.
you know, I needed her opinion, but
Right.
so we just didn't really talk about it for a really long time. And it took, I want to say maybe 8 years in when I started making some money. And she was like,
Ah.
okay, well, that's interesting. How does that
Hmm.
work? Because, Haitian with money, then it's like,
Right. Yeah. Now it's legit.
now maybe you're not wasting your time. And then so it was like a little conversation there, and then fast forward to the pandemic, and that's when I was like, okay, I was
Hmm.
taking my career seriously because it took me a while to wrap my mind around this content creation thing, because when I
Hmm.
grew up, the messaging was, you go to school, you get your degree, maybe stack up your degrees if you need to, and then you work
Hmm.
your way up the ladder. There was no other path. So me
Yeah,
doing
that's it.
something different was just unheard of. First of all, it's like, why are you wasting your time? Because I mean, I was already in
Right.
university, I was well on my way to becoming a doctor. So
Wow.
that was the path. So then when the pandemic hit, I was like, okay, you know what, I really enjoy what I'm doing, and I think I can be even more impactful if I gave it my all. So I started shifting my
Mm.
focus. And even then my mom was like, I don't think you should be doing that. You should keep, working your way up the ladder. Your career's already going well. Why would you take and it was like that fear that she was almost, I don't think she realized it, but I was already
Yeah.
uncertain of that career path. And
Hmm.
every time she would
Hmm.
kind of bring in the fear, like, what if it doesn't work? You should keep your 9 to 5. That's a little bit more secure. It made me more uncomfortable for me. But I was like, Mom, I'm
Right.
actually making more creating content, then my 9 to 5, then the conversation started. Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
maybe it's not so bad. I can, and you have the flexibility, da da da.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
then she was
yeah.
a little bit more open to it, but she was still very much keep your 9 to 5. You never know, keep your 9 to 5. And I
Right,
kept the nine to
right.
five for a really long time, but it was, it comes a time where you got to make a decision, and I feel like I had to make a decision.
Gotcha. Okay, okay. So you went into full-time content creation during the pandemic?
No, I did the year after, so 2021.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Wow.
It still took a while. I was like, I don't
Yeah,
know, like,
yeah.
should I not?
Yeah, but you're here now and you can
I'm
prove to
here
your
now.
mom I'm making some money. I'm doing all right. You can chill out.
We're chilling, mom. It's fine.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Wow, that's amazing. So it's been like 3 years now that you've been full-time content creator.
Yeah, just about almost three. I guess two
Yeah.
years,
Okay.
and this is gonna be my third year.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, wow. So how does it feel to be doing this full time now, and how do you see it evolving now that you have the time to really focus on this completely?
Well, I love it, first of all. I've always loved
Mhm.
it. That's the thing. I've always had this creative side to me
Yeah.
that I felt just wasn't cultivated. Even as a child, I
Mhm.
um I would listen to music and like imagine things, or I used to like that's one thing I used to do a lot is draw a lot of fashion outfits and like
Mhm.
put looks together. But there's always this creative thing that's like, oh yeah, you're doing this for fun, but the goal is to be a doctor.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had to fight that for a long time, like myself, because I was doing something that was against what was expected of me.
Yeah.
So I definitely enjoy it. I love it. And now that I feel like I'm definitely more focused in terms of, hey, this is your thing, Jen. Just go all in. Like see what at the very least see what happens. Because then otherwise you're
Mhm.
gonna be living with regrets. And I felt like I started to live with regrets because I started a long time ago. I started in 2011.
Okay.
So fast forward to say 2020, I'm like, damn, why didn't I take it seriously in 2014? Why didn't I take it
Mhm.
seriously in 2015? Like every year, you're like, well,
Yeah.
this is gonna be the year, and people are asking now, like, should I get started today? Well, it's like every year, that's the question that everyone asks. Yes,
Right.
get
Uh-huh.
started.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
once I give myself permission, and I think that's what it was, like to really,
Mm.
I don't know, shave everyone's expectation of what I was supposed to do, and really give myself permission to step into this. That's when I
Mhm.
feel that obviously I'm growing, I have more clarity, and I'm excited about what I'm doing. So next steps. Well, I love the fact that I'm impacting my community with my platforms right now, and I love the fact that I'm connecting with people that I never would have connected with otherwise. I mean, look at this podcast right now, right? Like if I didn't
Yeah.
have an online platform, we would have never met. So
Exactly.
I love that aspect of it, but the where I want to pivot a little bit, or at least add to what I'm doing, is to go into the education space a little bit. Like I
Okay.
said, there's a lot of influencers that are like, is it too late? How do I get started? What do I do? What do I focus on? And I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there as well as good information. And I remember when I first
Mhm.
started, it was very difficult to, first of all, know where I could take this and also
Mhm.
what I should be working on. And since I've been in the game for such a long time and I've learned so much, and I feel like I've also made all of the mistakes, I want to come out with resources and education for new creators, new influencers to kickstart their journey and really have a roadmap, a path to follow so that they're not making all the mistakes that I've made. And
Mhm.
that's going to be my focus this year. This is what I'm getting off the ground. And
Wow.
so I'm going to start new platforms, new YouTube channel, new everything around that brand. And the brand is called The
Ah.
Focused Creator because, so you can focus on
Ah.
what matters the most.
Ah, I love it. I love it
Ah,
already.
thank you. So that's going to be my new focus this year, just to kind of teach people to do what I do as I do what I do.
Mhm. Okay, that's amazing. Like you have learned so much on the way, and now you're ready to pour into other people to help them start their platforms. And I'm sure that there's so many people, like you said, right now who are not sure what to do and may think it's
Yeah.
too late.
No.
Because I think that like like 2010, 2011 was when YouTube was really starting to pop and everybody, got their cameras, and have OGs like you
Yeah.
who are here now. um, but through that time, I feel like there's also been a shift, especially with the pandemic, of more people grabbing their cameras again and
Yeah.
doing things. Even for me starting this podcast, it's only been like a year now, but yeah, it's just like I think there's so much more opportunity than people realize in
Yeah.
this time if you really just allow yourself to just be out there, like not be afraid and not be held back. You can
Yeah.
impact a community that you may not even know needs you.
Absolutely. I think right now is the best time. The best time was yesterday,
Mm.
but the second best time is today. You might as well get
Uh-huh,
started
uh-huh.
now. You might as well, especially if you have a message to share, because I think a lot of people run into this for the wrong reasons.
Mm.
They're like, oh, I'm gonna, I don't know, be a millionaire, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, reality check. It may not happen
Right.
right away,
Uh-huh.
but I think once you are getting into this with the mindset of serving other people, pouring into other
Mm.
people, helping others, adding value to the community, especially our community, I feel like if we can
Yeah.
help each other, and the
Mm-hmm.
best way to reach a lot of people is through social media. So if you can
Yeah.
utilize your platforms to share positive, kind messages, I think it's the best time to start is now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you're giving people out there the encouragement to get started on what they want to do.
Yeah. Two things out of this podcast: get therapy,
Uh-huh.
and then start your content creation business.
There you go. Yeah, those are the two takeaways, I would say, for sure. So I want to ask you, how do you feel like outside of therapy, how do you feel like you're really nourishing your mental health right now? Like, what are you doing on a day-to-day practical sense that you feel like is really helping nourish your mental health?
So for me, I'm really big on taking a moment to check in with Jen. And well, there's a couple of ways that I do it, but
Mm-hmm.
personally, I think physical health is also directly impacts our mental health. So I'm
Right.
very big on taking care of my body through working out, yoga, nutrition, really big on those, because if you're feeling poor in your own skin, I feel like it affects your mental health as well. So I take
Mm-hmm.
care of myself physically. When I have the time, I do have a 10-month-old. I will
Mm-hmm.
make sure I take, even if it's 5 minutes of just sitting, meditation, sitting with myself,
Yeah.
taking this moment to breathe, especially throughout the day, like you don't realize how you're just going from one thing to the next, and you don't take a moment for you. You're pouring into everybody else, and then you're
Mm-hmm.
the last one if you have time at the end of the night. And I feel like it should be the opposite. You need to take care of you
Right.
so you can pour into other people. So I definitely am big on yoga, meditation, just like taking a breather.
Mm-hmm.
um Therapy obviously is a really big thing for me for my mental health,
Yeah.
and just listening to my body, listening to how I'm feeling. Like if I'm feeling starting to feel overwhelmed, which once you start paying attention, you see the signs. You're a little more
Right.
irritable. You
Mm-hmm.
feel like you can't breathe. Your heart is beating a little too fast, and it's like 8
Mm-hmm.
a.m. Nothing happened.
Right,
But it
right.
felt like you had coffee, like you didn't even drink nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you start paying attention to the signs, you're like, okay, I need to take a moment. And I know my little rotation. I'm very big on beauty,
Mm-hmm.
and like I like people to do things for me. So I'll get like a
Yeah.
facial, I'll get a massage, I'll
Mm-hmm.
disconnect, I'll you know put my phone in a different room, especially with the phone, because the world just keep throwing things
There's
at
always
you.
something,
It's
yeah.
always something. So staying away from the phone, like things like that I would do depending on how I'm feeling and what I feel like I need in the
Mm-hmm.
moment.
Okay. Awesome. Those are great tips. I mean, those are all things that I tell my clients and just in day to day life. Like, you don't realize how much, is going on around you until you kind of slow down.
Yeah.
And that can
Yeah.
just be, like you said, some deep breaths, some meditation, putting that phone away.
Yeah. I journal as well. That's a big thing for
Oh,
me.
yeah.
Just like a simple gratitude journal. Like you'll
Hmm.
be surprised of how that impacts your entire life. Because a lot of us,
Yep.
we have tunnel vision. Oh, everything's wrong. Today
Yeah.
was a terrible day. Nothing
Yep.
worked out. But if you tell someone, well, okay, nothing worked out, but how about you give me three positive things that day?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be surprised at how many good things actually happened that day that you just didn't focus on. And I remember
Exactly.
when I first started writing in a gratitude journal, it had like pre-filled prompts. So three things
Mm-hmm.
you're grateful for today when you wake up, and then three things that good things that happened that day before you go to bed. And I remember
Yeah.
when I first started feeling like I can even come up with three things. What am I grateful for? like,
Mm.
like what's going on? And am I really not grateful for anything in my life? So once you start
Right.
forcing yourself to find three things, it just keeps flowing. Then I'm writing like seven things,
Mm-hmm.
my cat
Absolutely.
from 2003.
All the things. Yeah.
All of it. It starts flowing. So when you focus on something, that's what flows. So yeah, that's another way
Yeah.
that I make sure to check in and like stay grounded
Mm-hmm.
on a day to day.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned the gratitude journal because, yeah, I don't think people realize that gratitude actually combats depression. When you're
Mm,
able to refocus and realize what it is that you have that is just like something that means something to you, like that has an impact in your everyday life, there
yeah,
really is not that much of an opportunity for you to focus on all the terrible things
yeah,
that are happening.
yeah. And it's such
It's
a
a
simple
simple,
practice. Yeah, it's such a simple
simple
practice.
mind shift.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, those are the things that um I think people need to be more aware of. So I'm just so glad that you came and shared your story. I really want to just let more people know, especially people from our community, from our background, know
Mm,
how you don't have to be stuck in what you have been told is the right way, whether
yeah.
it's not going to therapy or whether it's holding in your feelings. You can create a path that looks like what it is for you,
Hmm.
and you could still be part of the culture.
Oh
Like
yeah,
your Haitian
absolutely.
card isn't removed because you go
No.
to therapy.
Listen, girl, I will be the first one in line if there's griot, banan peze, pickles, girl. Step aside. Okay,
You
I'm
already
right
know.
here.
Yeah, like absolutely. All the Haitian food all day.
Oh, all day.
Like,
I'll be
yeah.
the first one. But I think it's powerful to show, at least with my story, I always talk about it and I always tell people because you see other people and you're like, how is so and so always so happy? And like you
Mm,
look at their lives, you're like, there's nothing going on here. Like, why are they still so positive? Or I'm sure
yeah.
we know someone like that in our lives. And I think it's all about the mental, right?
Right.
How we view things. And if you're out here, you're struggling and you're feeling like, you know what, I don't know what to do, then really consider, writing down your goals, what you want to get out of therapy, and really find someone that clicks with you, especially from a cultural level. I think that's, I don't know, I like to emphasize this because that's what worked for me. Because I've seen, multiple therapists before, and it
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel like, like I said, I've learned every single person that I've
You
seen
learn something.
left something, had an
Mm-hmm.
impact. I've learned something, but the long term work came from having someone that I didn't have to explain the culture to. So really find
Right.
someone that connects with you,
Mm-hmm.
and find and see how your life will change. It really does change lives.
Yeah. Yeah. She said it, y'all. I know I say it, but she said it. Somebody, in our community who's been doing the work, she said it. So I think that's what people need to hear. But yeah, tell the people. I know that you said you're working on a new channel to help other content creators. Is there anything else that you're working on that you want to share? And tell people where to find you.
I feel like I'm always working on something, but the main thing right now is the Focus Creator. All the social
Hmm.
media handles is just that, the Focused Creator. Same with
Hmm.
YouTube, and in my current channel, which is the Jen Jackson, where we know more
Okay.
behind the scenes, where I talk about more lifestyle, more, it's a lot of hair conversation, but hair is so deeply rooted in our culture and how we grew up. There's so many different ways you can talk
Mm-hmm.
about hair. So there's that
Right.
as well, but it's all about taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big advocate of taking care of ourselves on a holistic level, especially us Black women in general. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
carry so much of everything on our back, and at the
Yeah.
end of the day, there isn't an award for the
Mm-hmm.
women that suffered the most. I can tell you, I've seen
No.
it with my mother. She has no awards right now, and she
None.
did it all.
Nothing.
So just keep that
Yeah.
in mind when you feel like you want to do everything around the house for
Right.
everybody else. And meanwhile, your cup is
Mm-hmm.
not only empty, but there's a hole at the bottom of your cup. If you have a hole at the bottom of your cup, we need to talk. We need to patch that up real
Yeah. Yeah.
quickly so that you can pour into yourself. So that's
Right.
basically what my current channels are about. It's about, taking care of yourself from the inside out. And then my
Okay.
new ventures, which is the Focus Curator, where I'm going to teach people how to do what I do. So that's where you can find me on the internet. And yeah, that's about it for me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so, so much again for being here, just sharing and being vulnerable, telling people again, like how much therapy has changed things for you, what you're learning, what you're constantly pouring into other people. And I just want to say that you're doing a lot for the community. So you're
Thank
appreciated.
you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I will drop all her information in the description bar and on the podcast page so you all can follow her and make sure you support her content. And we will see you all in the next video, in the next episode, and we will stay connected. So, yeah, thank you so much, Jenn.
Thank you for having me.